Hi, welcome to Unit 4 on the graphic novel. We are going to spend some time talking about the elements of a graphic novel, how to read the story, monster, some techniques that are in there, making sure you take good notes, and a little bit, there's an optional video about the author's background. So Monster is the graphic novel here, I have it. It is written by a man who had a very long history. He's written 110 books, Walter Dean Myers, and he had written the novel first, and recently this had been made into a graphic novel. And I think it works well in this format because the main character is being charged with a crime, but he's also a film student. And so he sees a lot of this and imagines a lot of what is happening in the courtroom as a film. So the ideas behind film are incorporated into the graphics that we can look at. So some different elements that you need to know and that you want to familiarize yourself with are the following here: panels, gutters, frames, word bubbles, sound effects, juxtaposition, and intertextuality. Actually, intertextuality isn't as great here, but we'll talk about it briefly. Graphic novel terms, the three main ones is the panel, which is the box-like unit that describes a single scene. So this one on your screen here, there's 3 panels. Sometimes there's 5, sometimes there's 1. The frames that go around them, these are blacked out frames, so you can't really see them. But sometimes the frames are shaded or something from in the panel goes over the border of the frame, which indicates something. Sometimes it's done in reverse, and so that can add meaning to the content of the panel. And then gutter is the space between the panels. And it's sort of when you're looking at the gutter, you see there's a lapse in time and meaning sometimes, or perspective. So panels, you want to look at how many are per page, the use of shading for the panels, that gives it off a feeling, the mixed sizes, the angles, and then the shifts between reality and film in the character Steve's mind, which you'll see here. The gutters, like I said, are those spaces. This is a good example where on the right panel, the gutter is blacked out by the shading of the man's face, or during the fight, you'll see arms and legs go over the border of into the gutter. So you'll see sometimes a shift in perspective, sometimes you'll see a shift in time. Also, the backgrounds will change from like a dark gray to a white to a black. So sometimes you'll be able to indicate or figure out things based on those changes. The frames are the outside, like I mentioned, they indicate a shift in time. They look at, like, sometimes the frames will be different if there's backstory or thoughts or flashback, like again when he's thinking about the film versus reality. Word bubbles are typically the little cloud with the words in it that are pointing to the person who's speaking. If it is in a complete rectangle, it's normally narration or a thought a person is having versus words being said aloud. Sometimes the word bubble, like you'll see in the example here, will have a different shape, and that shape will also show emotion. As you read, sometimes there's very few words on a panel and sometimes there's a lot. This is a court case, so sometimes there's a lot of words, and that will change and shift the pacing of the story. So sometimes you'll go through pages pretty quickly, and other ones you'll have to slow down to read the panels. And then there's sometimes sound effects, and this one, the word cut, which is a filmmaking word, but other times there might be someone shouting or a sound effect that's there, kind of like in typical comic books that they had, that would create tension. Juxtaposition is when you put two things together to create a feeling, and that the proximity of the two things impact. In this one, this scene is really interesting because you don't see anyone in the courtroom, yet you have this narration, and it gives the sense of kind of a doomsday sense where people have a bias, and no one's even heard the evidence yet or seen the people in the room. So this is kind of juxtapose other panels that have a lot of people and a lot of words and a lot of dialogue. When you're taking notes for this comic book or for this graphic novel, you'll want to make sure you write down the page number and describe the panels and the word bubbles. I like for mine, I'm very much like a post-it note person, and I write notes on it as I go through. You figure out what works for you. It's not easy to write in a graphic novel, so you might want to use post-its. You want to note things like the plot, the characterization, like what's the character doing, if there's changes in time, themes, or any questions that you have as you're watching. And again, when we're looking at this, we're going to be looking at implicit bias, thinking about that video from Verna Myers, if you haven't watched it yet, about what do we maybe unconsciously bring to a situation and what bias might we have. Again, here's an example of maybe making notes on a slide, and maybe a double journal entry format would work well for you. And then finally, there's just a link here for Walter Dean's bio. He passed away a few years ago, but I think you would find his bio pretty interesting. He went through a lot, and I think you can see his heart sort of in this book and in his other 110 novels. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.